If your miracle hasn't arrived yet, stay with me until the very end. St. Anthony is already prepared to surprise you. Right now, you might be facing something overwhelming. Perhaps a medical report that stole your peace, debts that robbed your sleep, or family relationships that seem beyond repair. Your heart might feel heavy, burdened by trials that appear impossible to overcome. But let me reassure you, the impossible simply doesn't exist in the eyes of faith. This very moment is where your miracle begins. Take a deep breath, because you've found the right place to rest your worries, release your fears, and reclaim your hope. Whatever desperate situation brought you here, be it physical pain, financial struggle, or the quiet desperation of loneliness, St. Anthony understands deeply, and he welcomes you exactly as you are. Together, we'll turn your silent prayers whispered through tears into testimonies of miracles. Open your heart fully, because your life is about to change. If your heart is ready to receive, type Amen below. Beloved St. Anthony, you who have witnessed countless desperate cases transformed by faith, today I humbly place my burdens at your feet. So many of us are silently suffering, weighed down by financial emergencies, illnesses, and family struggles that seem beyond repair. I ask you, powerful intercessor, to urgently bring our petitions before God. Let each person listening now feel a renewal of hope, knowing that through your intercession, an urgent miracle is already in motion. Remind us all that in God's hands, what seems impossible is only the beginning of the miraculous. St. Anthony, comforter of the afflicted, hear the cry of those who carry hidden wounds, those who silently battle pain, worry, or despair. You understand better than anyone how it feels when prayers seem unanswered and miracles distant. Yet precisely in these darkest moments, your miraculous prayer to St. Anthony shines brightest. Today, intercede powerfully for all who feel lost and alone. Assure each heart that healing, restoration of homes, and restoration of family relationships are possible through your loving intervention. Whisper to our souls, hold on, your blessing is closer than you think. O glorious St. Anthony, champion of impossible requests, now is the moment we urgently call upon your powerful Catholic prayer for miracles. Bring immediate relief to those facing financial advancement blockages, restore health where doctors have lost hope, and reconcile families torn apart by conflict. Stir in us an unshakable faith, knowing fully that your intercession makes miracles tangible today. Encourage us to stay faithful, patient, and expectant, for even as we speak, your infallible prayer to St. Anthony is working in ways we cannot yet see. Guide us gently, for our miracle is unfolding right now. If you believe your miracle is already coming, write glory to God in the comments below. The miracle begins where the pain lives. Sometimes the greatest miracles are born in silence, in that aching space between a desperate prayer and the moment heaven answers. It is there, right there, that St. Anthony begins to move. When no one sees your tears but your pillow, when your prayers feel unanswered and your strength begins to fade, don't run away. That is precisely where the miracle starts. Right in the middle of your exhaustion, God begins to build something new. St. Anthony knows the pain of waiting, the weight of uncertainty. He has walked with people who were one prayer away from giving up, and in their despair, he brought light. He whispered truth into hearts overwhelmed by fear. He didn't remove the struggle overnight, but he transformed it, step by step, into a testimony. And what was once unbearable became undeniable proof of God's love. There's something holy about the pain you're carrying, even if it doesn't feel like it, because God doesn't waste suffering, he reshapes it. St. Anthony is not just a saint of lost things, but of lost hope, lost joy, and lost direction. And the beauty of it all, he helps you find what you didn't even know you lost, a sense of peace, a fresh breath of faith, a spark of belief. When your body aches and your soul aches even more, you need more than medicine. You need presence. You need to know that heaven is paying attention, that your cries are not in vain. Saint Anthony brings that assurance, not through loud declarations, but through still moments where peace gently returns to the room, and you remember that you're not alone. Not today, not ever. Some say, just have faith. But how do you have faith when everything is falling apart? That's where Saint Anthony comes in. Not to demand more from you, but to give more to you. More strength, more clarity, more courage to face the day when nothing has changed yet. Because faith isn't pretending. It's standing on the truth that God is working, even when the miracle hasn't arrived. Maybe you've lost something you can't name, a part of yourself, a sense of identity, a feeling of safety. That's okay. You don't need to know how it will return. You just need to trust the one who does. Saint Anthony restores what feels forever broken, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way you need. Keep your heart open. Restoration begins there. Imagine this. You open your hands in surrender, and slowly, without warning, peace returns. Bills are still unpaid. The diagnosis hasn't changed, but something inside you shifts. You realize you're not defeated. You're being refined. This is the quiet power of prayer, not always flashy, but always life-changing. Saint Anthony knows how to walk with you in the in-between. He knows the grief of unanswered questions. He intercedes for the parent whose child has drifted far from home, for the spouse who wonders if the love can ever return, for the elderly man who sits alone in a small room praying for a visitor. Saint Anthony shows up. Not always with the solution, but always with comfort, always with a whisper, "You are not forgotten." This miracle begins not when everything changes, but when you begin to change, when your heart softens, when your voice returns, when you dare to believe again. Faith is fragile, but so are seeds, and what feels like the smallest hope may be the very seed of your greatest breakthrough. Water it today with prayer, with trust, with surrender. Someone once said, God doesn't move on our timeline, but he's never late. You may feel like you're stuck, but in truth you're being prepared. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. Saint Anthony is aligning things you can't yet see. Conversations, connections, resources, healing. It's already unfolding behind the curtain of heaven. If you're facing a financial emergency, don't just pray for money. Pray for wisdom, creativity, and favor. Sometimes the blessing is not in the handout, but in the open door to something greater. A new job, a fresh start, a business idea that breaks generational cycles. Saint Anthony has opened these doors for countless people. Why not you? If you feel unseen, remember, Saint Anthony sees, and he is already whispering your name before the throne of God. Your case is not forgotten. Your pain is not dismissed. Your prayer is not too small or too big. The same God who multiplied loaves can multiply opportunity. The same God who healed the blind can heal your heart. The miracle is not a myth, it's a promise. Now take one small step of faith. Speak aloud what you're hoping for. Write it down, light a candle, call someone and ask for prayer. Faith isn't just what we feel, it's what we do in response to hope, and hope leads us forward. Saint Anthony never leaves us where he found us. He leads us forward toward healing, toward clarity, toward divine timing. Maybe all you can do today is breathe and whisper, "Help me." That's enough. Heaven hears that. Miracles begin with surrender. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Let your prayer be honest, raw, real. Saint Anthony doesn't ask for eloquence, he asks for your heart. And when you offer it, even trembling, miracles begin to move. What if tonight was the turning point? What if this is the moment when your breakthrough begins? Not because you prayed perfectly, but because you opened your soul, because you chose to believe again. That kind of prayer, that's where St. Anthony works best. He doesn't wait for the perfect circumstance. He works in the middle of the mess. Healing doesn't always happen in a flash. Sometimes it's a gentle progression, like waking up one day and realizing your heart doesn't hurt as much, that your mind is a little clearer, that your spirit is not as weighed down. That's a miracle too. That's restoration in motion, and St. Anthony is walking with you through every part of it. Faith can feel risky, vulnerable, like stepping onto water and hoping it holds. But what if that's exactly where your miracle lives, in the risk of trust? St. Anthony will not let you fall. He will lift your request to heaven, and as you step in faith, even just a little, you'll find God waiting on the other side, arms wide open. If you're praying for a loved one, don't give up, even if they're far, even if they've turned away. St. Anthony has a special tenderness for the lost. He finds what others have written off. He rescues what the world says is gone. Keep praying. The reunion may already be unfolding, even if you haven't seen it yet. And when you feel weak, lean into that weakness. That's where grace lives. You don't have to be strong all the time. God does his best work through surrendered people. And St. Anthony reminds us, the miracle is never about us being worthy. It's about God being good, always, unchanging, ready. There is power in praying together. Right now, as you pray, you are not alone. Others around the world are lifting their voices too, and St. Anthony is interceding alongside you. That unity creates waves in heaven. Don't underestimate what happens when people believe together. Miracles multiply in community. Let today be the day you stop trying to carry it all by yourself. Let today be the day you give it fully to God. Let today be the day the miracle begins. Not tomorrow, not someday. Today, right now. And remember, when you feel nothing is happening, something is always happening. Faith works in silence too. St. Anthony is already walking toward your request, even if the doors feel closed, even if the answers seem far. There's something divine in this moment of prayer. Don't rush it. Breathe, believe, receive. Your miracle may not be delayed. It may be perfectly on time. God doesn't tease his children with hope. He answers. Maybe not in the way you imagined, but always in the way that restores your soul, that renews your strength, that reminds you you were never forgotten. This first mystery is not the end of your prayer. It's only the beginning. If this first mystery stirred something in your spirit, type, "I believe" in the comments. Your miracle is closer than you think. Hold on. The miracle is still on the way. There's a sacred tension between the prayer you pray and the answer you're waiting for. It's where many hearts faint, but those who endure this waiting time with faith are the ones who often see the most breathtaking miracles. This mystery is about staying connected, about believing even when heaven is quiet. That silence is not rejection, it's preparation. Something is forming in the unseen. St. Anthony knows this waiting room of faith intimately. He walks with those who sit in quiet tears, day after day, wondering, "When, Lord?" And still, he never leaves. He intercedes with love, with urgency, and with divine strategy. He brings your needs before the throne of grace, whispering the names of those who refuse to give up. Miracles are not delayed, they're developing. Sometimes, what God is doing in you is more important than what you're asking him to do around you. Maybe you prayed for financial advancement, but what he's growing is your resilience. Maybe you asked for healing, but he's restoring your faith first. And St. Anthony? He's the bridge between your cry and God's perfect plan. He keeps you from falling apart while heaven aligns the impossible. When all you have is a whisper of belief left, don't bury it. Plant it. Speak it aloud. I still believe. Because faith is not a feeling, it's a decision. And every time you choose to trust again, despite the pain, you create space for God to move. You make room for the very powerful prayer to Saint Anthony to do its invisible work. That prayer never returns empty, let's be honest. It hurts to hope again when you've been disappointed. It hurts to trust after loss. But that's exactly when faith becomes real. Not when everything is easy, but when nothing makes sense and you choose to believe anyway. That's where Saint Anthony meets you, with tenderness, with compassion, with reminders that God has not stopped writing your story. There's no shame in feeling tired. Tired of praying, tired of waiting, tired of pretending to be okay. Even saints have known that kind of exhaustion. But it's often in that very fatigue that God begins to show up in unexpected ways. Through a text message, a phone call, a moment of clarity, a financial door you never expected. Saint Anthony is already at work behind the scenes. Are you praying for your children, for your spouse, for someone you love who's drifting? Saint Anthony specializes in finding what's been lost, including broken hearts, strained relationships, and wandering souls. Don't let today go by without asking him to bring your family restoration. Nothing is too far gone. He's seen it all and brought countless hearts home. And if you're feeling broken yourself, don't hide that pain. Bring it forward, lay it on the altar of prayer. There is nothing too shameful, too heavy, or too complex for St. Anthony to carry. You don't have to pretend here. This is holy ground. The more honest your prayer, the more powerful its effect. That's the beauty of a miraculous prayer to St. Anthony. It begins where your truth begins. When your bank account is empty and your fridge echoes back silence, it's hard to focus on anything but survival. But even then, miracles happen. A financial emergency may feel like a trap, but it could be the trigger for transformation. Saint Anthony has opened doors no man could shut. Don't lose hope. You might be just one prayer away from a divine turnaround. Maybe today your prayer isn't for things. Maybe it's for peace. Peace in your body, peace in your home, peace in your mind. That's a powerful request. And Saint Anthony delights in it. He doesn't just chase down lost items, he brings back lost peace. He speaks into anxious nights and quiet storms before they destroy. Let him speak peace into your storm right now. The miracle you seek might not be dramatic. It may come gently. A debt cancelled, a child returning, a job offer you weren't expecting, a conversation that heals years of silence. Don't discount the quiet victories. St. Anthony specializes in both thunder and whispers, and both are miracles just the same. God often answers with layers. The first answer leads to the second. The second unlocks the third, and suddenly you're in a new season. But if you stop at layer 1, you might miss the breakthrough at layer 4. So stay connected, stay hopeful, stay in prayer. Saint Anthony is not finished with your story. This moment you're in, it's not punishment, it's preparation. You're not being delayed, you're being developed. There's a miracle forming that requires the full maturity of your faith. And Saint Anthony, he's holding your hand through it all. So when the answer comes, your heart will be ready to carry it. You're not waiting alone. Every time you pray, you join a chain of faith that stretches across time. Mothers, fathers, elders, children, crying out to God and watching him move. Add your voice to that chorus. Let your prayer rise up. St. Anthony is listening, and more importantly, he's responding. Have you ever noticed that right before a breakthrough, things seem to get worse? That's not coincidence. That's spiritual tension. The enemy always fights hardest when heaven is about to move. So don't quit. Keep praying, keep believing, keep declaring, my miracle is coming. Saint Anthony is still standing beside you. Even now, there are angels on assignment. Even now, favor is being stirred. You might not see it yet, but your spirit knows something is changing. Keep walking, keep trusting, because this is not where your story ends. It's where the miracle unfolds. Saint Anthony never misses the cries of a faithful heart. There's power in repetition. Pray the same prayer again. Say it even when you're unsure. That repetition builds spiritual muscle. It tells heaven, I'm still here, I'm still believing, I'm still holding on. And Saint Anthony hears that faith loud and clear. It's never wasted. It's never ignored. If someone you love is hurting, place their name in the hands of Saint Anthony today. Say it aloud. Write it down. Speak it into prayer. You may not be able to fix them, but you can fight for them in prayer. And Saint Anthony, he fights too. Fiercely, faithfully, unceasingly. Have you asked for the impossible? Good. That's Saint Anthony's specialty. Impossible prayer that works. Miraculous prayer today. There is no ceiling in the spiritual realm. Nothing is too broken. Nothing is too far. Lift your voice. Ask again. Believe again. Watch what happens. And if you're the one who's hurting most, let this be your healing moment. Let this be where it starts. Not with a shout, but with a whisper. Not with strength, but with surrender. That's all Saint Anthony needs. Your yes, your open heart, your willingness to believe that this moment matters. The greatest enemy of faith isn't doubt, it's discouragement. But prayer lifts you out of it. It lifts your head. It steadies your soul. And as you pray, Saint Anthony steadies everything else. The chaos, the questions, the confusion. He brings peace where there was only pain. Let this mystery remind you. Your miracle is not behind you, it's ahead. It's in the next breath, the next prayer, the next knock on the door. Don't turn back, don't shut down. Stay with me, keep going. This journey is sacred, and the breakthrough is closer than you think. If your heart is still holding on, type I'm still believing in the comments and declare your trust in the miracle ahead. Faith that moves the heart of heaven. There's something unshakable about faith that refuses to let go. The kind of faith that clings to God, even in the silence. The kind that wakes up every morning and says, I still believe, even without the answer. This is the faith Saint Anthony strengthens in us. The kind that calls on the miraculous even when logic says no. Because the truth is, miracles aren't for the comfortable. They're for the desperate. Saint Anthony's power doesn't come from his name alone, but from his nearness to God's heart. His intercession is like a sacred echo, taking your cries and translating them into divine petitions, wrapped in love, urgency, and wisdom. That's why his miraculous prayer works. That's why millions turn to him when all seems lost. He doesn't just understand your pain. He brings it before heaven. Think about it. Who else can you call on when your child is in danger, your health is deteriorating, or your finances have collapsed? When friends don't answer and plans fall through, you need a heavenly ally. That's Saint Anthony, the friend of the forgotten, the rescuer of the rejected, the guardian of the impossible. He is never too busy, never too far, never too late. When someone calls out to him with urgency and trust, something shifts. It's as though the spiritual realm leans in. The moment you utter his name in faith, something starts moving, not always seen, not always felt, but real, tangible, holy. This is the power of an infallible prayer to Saint Anthony. It begins in the heart and reaches all the way to the throne of God. Do you remember the time Jesus said, "Ask and it will be given to you"? Saint Anthony lives that promise daily. He helps you ask with boldness, believe without fear, and wait with peace. He whispers to your soul, don't give up. The answer is coming. And that encouragement, that's often the very bridge between heartbreak and healing. Some people pray once and stop, but those who persist, those who pray again and again, tap into something deeper. They build spiritual muscle. They tell God, I'm not leaving until you move. Saint Anthony honors that persistence. He lifts those prayers high again and again until something in heaven opens. And when it does, everything changes. You don't need fancy words. You don't need a perfect life. You just need faith, even a little, even mustard seed faith. Because Saint Anthony doesn't measure the size of your words, he responds to the size of your surrender. And when you let go, when you truly say, not my will, but yours, that's when his intercession becomes unstoppable. Sometimes the answer isn't just for you, it's for someone watching you, your spouse, your children, a co-worker. They see you standing in faith when the world expects you to crumble. And they wonder, what kind of God gives peace in this kind of storm? That witness is part of the miracle. It turns your pain into a platform for someone else's salvation. There is nothing passive about prayer. It's not a last resort. It's a supernatural strategy. It activates things you'll never fully understand. And Saint Anthony, he's your divine partner in that strategy. When you pray with him, you're praying with confidence, with authority, with heavenly backup. You are no longer alone in your request. If you're asking for financial advancement, know this: the provision is not just for your survival, it's for your testimony, so that you can say, I was drowning in debt, but God made a way through Saint Anthony's intercession. That testimony might be the very thing someone else needs to believe again. Never underestimate the power of your breakthrough. And if you're praying for healing, imagine Saint Anthony laying his hands over the broken part of your body or the wounded part of your soul, whispering, be restored. His intercession goes where medicine cannot reach, into hospital rooms, into sleepless nights, into silent suffering. His prayer reaches what doctors cannot touch. Family restoration is one of the deepest cries of the human heart. A mother longing for her son to come home. A husband praying for the return of affection. A child asking for parents to stop fighting. Saint Anthony has healed homes more broken than yours. He's seen anger melt into forgiveness. He's turned shouting into laughter. Trust him with your family. Some requests feel too personal to share, too vulnerable, but nothing is hidden from Saint Anthony. He already knows, and still he waits for your invitation, for you to say, come into this part of my heart. That's when the transformation begins, not by force, but by gentle love. The kind that rewrites your story one word at a time. There is no prayer too late, no petition too small. Whether you're praying for a job, a child, or your own weary spirit, Saint Anthony hears it all. He doesn't prioritize requests based on volume. He listens based on faith. So bring yours, even if it's been silent for a while. Let this be your return. Let this be your new beginning. And remember, the intercession of a saint is not superstition. It's divine collaboration. God designed this. He delights when we join in prayer with his faithful servants. Saint Anthony is one of the most powerful. His track record of answered prayer is undeniable. Trust that your request is now in good hands. You are not invisible. You are not unheard. When you call on Saint Anthony with urgency and trust, something always happens. Maybe not what you expected, but always what you needed. And that's how you'll know it was from God. Because it doesn't just fix the problem, it changes you in the process. Think about what you've already survived. Think about the things you thought would break you but didn't. That's evidence that God has been working all along. And Saint Anthony, he's been walking with you since day one. His miracles aren't always loud, but they are always life-changing. Miracles are not rewards, they are reminders that you are seen, loved, chosen, that heaven is not distant, that God is closer than your next breath, and that Saint Anthony is one of his most devoted servants, assigned to walk you through the fire and into peace. You may feel weak, but that weakness is the very opening where divine strength enters. Saint Anthony doesn't look for the strongest, he answers the surrendered. So give it all today, the fear, the doubt, the frustration. Lay it all down and watch what God builds from your brokenness. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. The miracle you've prayed for may be closer than you think. Maybe it's already in motion. Maybe God has already said yes, and now the path is being cleared. Don't lose heart. Saint Anthony is working on your behalf, so keep praying. Keep believing, keep showing up to your faith. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason your heart feels this pull. It's not random, it's divine. The miracle is not just coming, it's becoming. And with every whispered prayer, you're getting closer. If you believe in the power of Saint Anthony's intercession, type "miracle in progress" in the comments and keep your heart open to what heaven is unfolding. Surrender, let go, and let God surprise you. There comes a point in every spiritual journey when you realize you're not in control, and though that realization can shake you at first, it eventually becomes the key to peace. Saint Anthony invites you into that sacred release, into that holy surrender where the pressure lifts and trust takes over. This is the mystery of letting go, not to give up, but to give it to God. Letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's saying, I've done all I can, and now I believe God will do what only He can. So many people carry burdens that aren't theirs to carry. Financial pressure, family conflict, emotional wounds. Saint Anthony reminds us, miracles happen when we release instead of resist. What if surrender is not the end of your prayer, but the beginning of your miracle? That's where Saint Anthony leads you, into deeper waters of faith, into places where healing flows freely, where the noise of worry fades and the whisper of God's presence grows louder. Surrender is where grace finally has room to work. Some think surrender is passive, but it's the opposite. It's an active decision to step back so God can step forward. It's powerful, it's liberating, it's holy. Saint Anthony doesn't ask you to surrender out of fear, but out of love. Because when you release your control, heaven releases its favor. Many people ask for miracles, but still grip the wheel tightly. Today, loosen your hands, breathe deeply, say it aloud if you need to. God, I let go. That single act of surrender invites heaven's strategy to take the lead. And Saint Anthony, he takes that invitation seriously. He moves swiftly when hearts open. If you're tired of begging for change and seeing none, maybe it's time to shift the prayer. From God, fix this, to God, take this. That's surrender. That's transformation. And that's exactly where the very powerful prayer to Saint Anthony begins to unfold in ways you never expected. There's beauty in admitting you can't do it all, that you don't have all the answers, that your strength has limits. And in that moment of confession, Saint Anthony leans in, not with judgment, but with peace. He doesn't need your perfection. He just wants your permission to work in the places you can't reach. Surrender often brings clarity. It reveals what matters most, what you can't control, what you must protect, what you must entrust to heaven. And it invites you to rest, really rest. Not the kind of rest that means doing nothing, but the rest that comes from knowing you're not carrying this alone anymore. When you're seeking family restoration, surrender the timeline. When you're desperate for healing, surrender the outcome. When you're praying for financial advancement, surrender the plan. Miracles don't always arrive according to your calendar, but they always arrive according to God's wisdom. St. Anthony doesn't promise you everything you want, but through his intercession, you will always receive what your soul needs. Sometimes that's healing, sometimes it's strength, sometimes it's simply peace to face another day. Whatever it is, surrender opens the door for it to come in. Some people ask, but how do I know if I've truly surrendered? The answer is simple. You'll feel lighter, not because the situation changed, but because the weight of it is no longer pressing you down. St. Anthony carries that burden with you, and every time you feel peace that doesn't make sense, that's him working. True surrender requires trust. Trust that God's plan is better. Trust that you don't need all the details. Trust that even in silence something sacred is happening. St. Anthony helps build that trust, little by little, day by day, through reminders, signs and quiet confirmations that God is still on the move. Even Jesus surrendered, "Not my will, but yours be done." That prayer shook the heavens, and your surrender can too. It's not resignation, it's alignment. It says, "God, I'm stepping back so you can step in fully." That kind of prayer is powerful, and St. Anthony responds to it quickly. If you've been holding on tightly to fear, to control, to bitterness, today is your invitation to let go. Even just a little, even just one layer, and watch what happens. Sometimes surrender is the key that unlocks doors you've been knocking on for years. Doors to healing, to financial provision, to reconciliation. Think about what you've been trying to manage alone. The bills, the stress, the tension at home, the questions about your future. Lay them at the feet of St. Anthony. He doesn't turn away from your mess. He steps into it. And as he lifts it up in prayer, you'll feel heaven moving closer. The miracle might not come how you expected, but it will come. That's the beauty of surrender. It opens you to surprises, to blessings you didn't think to ask for, to peace in the waiting, to joy in the process. That's where God does his best work, in surrendered spaces. Let today be your declaration. I no longer carry this alone. Whether it's a sick child, a broken marriage, or an impossible dream, place it into St. Anthony's hands. Speak it aloud. I surrender this, and I trust in the miracle already on its way. That's not weakness. That's courage. That's power. You may not feel the shift instantly, but it's there, like a seed buried in the soil, quiet, hidden, growing. Surrender plants that seed of transformation, and before you even realize it, something beautiful begins to rise. A miracle in motion. A testimony in the making. Don't be afraid to revisit your surrender daily. This isn't a one-time act, it's a rhythm, a way of walking with God, of saying, "You lead, I'll follow." And St. Anthony walks with you every step. He reminds you, surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means giving God access. You are not failing when you surrender. You are faithing. You are saying, "I trust God more than I trust my fear." And that alone is a victory. That alone opens heaven's gates. St. Anthony rushes to intercede for hearts that choose trust, even when trembling. There is glory in the unseen, the invisible work of God, the prayers that seem unanswered but are actually unfolding behind closed doors. Surrender puts you in alignment with that glory. It tells heaven, "I believe without seeing." And heaven responds, always. So don't fear surrender. Embrace it. Wrap your arms around it. Let it carry you. Let it lift the heaviness. Let it become your new normal. St. Anthony will never ask you to surrender something he hasn't already seen transformed by God's power. Every time you say, "I trust you, Lord," the weight lessens, the fear loosens, the miracle gets closer. Surrender rewires your spirit. It opens you to grace even before the blessing shows up. And St. Anthony, he makes sure that grace arrives right on time. Don't just surrender once. Live surrendered. Make it the posture of your soul, the rhythm of your faith, the attitude of your heart. And watch how miracles begin to flow more freely, unexpectedly, powerfully, because surrendered people receive open-handed blessings. If you're praying for impossible requests today, start here. Surrender them. Not with dread, but with expectancy. God, I trust you, and I believe you'll surprise me. That prayer, spoken with faith, is one Saint Anthony loves to carry to heaven, and heaven always listens. If your heart is ready to surrender fully, type, "I trust you, Lord," in the comments and welcome the miracle that's already forming. The miracle is already moving toward you. There comes a moment when the heart no longer questions, when the soul simply knows God is working. That is where this mystery lives. A sacred confidence that no matter what you see with your eyes, something divine is unfolding behind the veil. Saint Anthony doesn't just bring miracles. He leads you to the place where you expect them. Real trust isn't born when things go right. It's formed in the fire, in the delay, in the impossible. And it says, "Even here, I believe." That's what Saint Anthony teaches us, not just how to ask, but how to wait with faith, how to expect the miraculous, how to live as though the answer has already been spoken in heaven. You may not see the miracle yet, but what if it's already in motion? What if that financial emergency is about to break open into supernatural provision? What if the relationship you thought was dead is just dormant? What if your child is already feeling a shift in their spirit? St. Anthony invites you to live as if the breakthrough is inevitable. Faith without expectation is incomplete. But when you combine belief with boldness, the heavens respond. Miraculous prayer to St. Anthony is not timid. It's filled with anticipation. It prays for impossible requests as though they were already granted. And in doing so, it welcomes the impossible into the now. Think of a seed buried in soil. No one sees it grow at first, but deep underground roots are forming. Your prayers are seeds. Your declarations of trust are watering them. And St. Anthony is the tender of your garden, watching, guarding, and preparing the moment when breakthrough bursts through the surface. When you walk in expectation, everything changes. You speak differently, you think differently, you love differently. You no longer beg God, you thank Him in advance. Thank you for the healing, thank you for the job, thank you for the restoration of my home. That kind of faith shakes the spiritual world. St. Anthony doesn't just bring what was lost, he restores what was broken, and in the process, he restores your trust. The trust that God sees you, that He hears your every whisper, that the prayer that works instantly isn't fiction, it's faith. And your faith is attracting miracles even now. Don't be afraid to believe too big. God isn't offended by your boldness. He's glorified by it. So ask for things that scare you. Ask for restoration of family relationships that others gave up on. Ask for healing in places doctors can't explain. Ask for sudden financial advancement. Ask for peace that overrides every storm. St. Anthony has witnessed every kind of miracle. The quiet ones, the loud ones, the slow ones, the sudden ones, but they all started the same way, with faith. The kind of faith that won't stop showing up, that wakes up every day expecting good. That writes, God is working over every unanswered prayer. Imagine this. Your mailbox holds the approval letter. Your phone rings with the opportunity. Your door opens to a reconciled child. These aren't fantasies. They're the kinds of stories that fill St. Anthony's history. What he's done for others, he can do for you. Why would your case be the exception? If doubt creeps in, don't deny it. Just replace it. Replace it with truth, with promise, with testimonies of others, with the word. Speak it out loud. I trust that the miracle is already mine. Let those words settle in your spirit. Let them become the soundtrack of your soul. They are more powerful than fear. God doesn't just answer prayers, He prepares your heart to receive them. What you're waiting for is also waiting for you to be ready. That's why Saint Anthony doesn't rush the process. He aligns it, times it, and when it comes, it fits perfectly, seamlessly, like it was meant for you all along. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to manipulate outcomes. Just live in holy expectation, in peaceful anticipation, in quiet trust. That is the posture of faith that attracts heaven. And Saint Anthony walks with those who carry that posture, strengthening them along the way. This is where the journey begins to bloom. You've prayed, you've surrendered. Now you believe, and that belief shifts the atmosphere. It magnetizes blessings, it releases favor, it creates space for the miraculous to land. And when it lands, you'll look back and see nothing was wasted. The tears, they watered your faith. The waiting, it developed your character. The silence, it taught you to listen. Every step mattered, and Saint Anthony never left your side. Even now he's praying with you, lifting your name, lifting your burden, lifting your miracle into motion. Live today like the answer is coming. Wake up tomorrow with joyful expectancy. Speak life into your family. Declare abundance over your finances. Bless your body with healing words. Walk through your home and say, "Peace lives here." That is the language of confidence, the sound of someone who believes. If you need something impossible today, you're in the perfect place. That's St. Anthony's specialty. That's what he's known for. The prayer that works when all others fail, the intercession that turns last chances into new beginnings. Ask, expect, receive, and give thanks as though it's already done. There's power in thanking God before the blessing arrives. It's a bold move, a faith move, and it triggers miracles. Right now, say it. Thank you, Lord, for the answer. Let that gratitude echo louder than your fear. That is the kind of faith Saint Anthony brings into every room. Confidence in God doesn't mean you never feel afraid. It means you never stay afraid. You don't let fear write your story. You let faith do that. You let Saint Anthony lead the way with confidence that what you've entrusted to God is now His responsibility, and He never fails. God knows how to deliver. He's never missed a deadline, and though you may feel like you're running out of time, heaven is never late. It arrives when peace can protect the blessing, when your soul is strong enough to carry what you prayed for. And St. Anthony ensures that the timing is divine, so don't lose hope in the final hour. The darkest moments are often right before the breakthrough. That's not cliché, it's spiritual truth. Keep your eyes open, your spirit alert, your heart ready. The shift could happen today, tonight, right now. And when it does, you'll know it was worth the wait, and you will see Him move, not just for others, for you, for your family, for your health, for your finances, for your peace, for your legacy. And when it happens, testify, share it, let others know. I called on St. Anthony, and the impossible bowed. That story will change lives. The journey of prayer doesn't end here, it deepens. And as you continue to walk in faith, watch how miracles follow, like a shadow, like a promise fulfilled, like grace upon grace. Saint Anthony is still interceding, still fighting for you, still reminding heaven that you believe. If your heart believes the miracle is already moving toward you, write "It's done in Jesus' name" in the comments and walk forward in victory. Final blessing. May St. Anthony now place his gentle hands over your heart and fill you with the peace that surpasses all understanding. May every silent prayer you whispered tonight rise like incense before God, and may your soul begin to feel light again. Even if your answer hasn't arrived yet, trust that the heavens have already heard. Your miracle is no longer a question, It's on its way. Let that truth settle in your bones like a warm light. May healing flow through your body, reaching every cell, every joint, every wound, even those hidden beneath the surface. What doctors cannot see, may God touch. What medicine cannot fix, may divine grace renew. Through St. Anthony's intercession, may you feel relief, restoration, and radiant hope rising within you. May your breath come easier, your sleep be sweet, and your body be whole again. For every home represented here, may restoration reign. May laughter return to the dinner table, and love overflow in the smallest gestures. If your family has been divided, may God begin the work of reconciliation today. May St. Anthony restore what bitterness, pride, or time tried to destroy. And may your home become a sanctuary of healing, love, and protection. May your finances be covered by divine favor. For every unpaid bill, every empty fridge, every anxious night, may new doors open. May creative solutions, unexpected provisions, and job opportunities begin to appear. May St. Anthony lead you toward abundance, not just in money, but in joy, in gratitude, in security. And may you never feel forsaken in your need again. May your heart begin to dream again. May you wake up tomorrow with fresh strength, clear direction, and deeper peace. May the burdens that felt too heavy today feel lighter by morning. May St. Anthony walk beside you, whispering, "Keep going. Your time is coming. You are not alone, and you never were." What if today was the moment that heaven whispered, "It's time"? What if the pain you've endured wasn't punishment, but preparation? What if St. Anthony is already arranging the right people, the right words, the right opportunity, just for you? What will your story sound like when you tell someone, "God did it"? He answered.